Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one more episode of Paragliding Banter. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for all the support that's been shown and interest that's been shown in the episodes. And I understand from all the feedback that we need to improve our recording, but also the subjects are pretty interesting and people have given some good feedback. So thank you very much. Today, I have two guests with me, and today we're going to talk about a very important topic and which affects all of us. And the topic is fear and how to overcome fear. And to discuss this in their own examples and situations, I have with me Kartik Kathavate, who's a very close friend of mine and who's been flying with me for the last 11 years. He's really making rolling his eyes right now when I say that. And I have Vishal Dadlani back with me, who is also going to talk about the feeling of fear and the feeling of uh, overcoming that to fly again with us today. So, welcome, guys. Welcome to Paragliding Banter.
But thank you for having us back. Well, me back and
Thanks.
Karthik for the first time.
Thanks, Ajit. It's good to be here.
Okay. So, guys, today we're going to talk about fear. We all go through this fear. I have gone through it myself, and it took a long time for me to get out of it. It could be anything. It could be a bad takeoff. It could be a bad landing. It could be extreme fear of pitching in the sky, fear of heights. It could be a lot of things, and we all go through this, and we all come out of it. But there are some people who don't come out of it because they don't know how to come out of it. Today, we're going to figure out how each one of us deals with it and what we can do. Just before we start, I just want to make a clarification on two things: fear and phobia. Fear is good to have because it keeps you on your edge, and phobia is irrational. It's like, you have fear of heights, and you go to a building and you're on the 20th floor, but inside a room, and you look down, you know nothing's going to happen. Everything's closed, all the windows are shut, it's a solid building, but it's irrational because you feel you're going to fall down. So phobia is different, fear is different. Let's talk about fear today. I would like to start with Karthik. Karthik, could you please explain to us any incident that you've had where you had to face fear, or rather fear crept into you and it affected your flying?
Yep. So it's quite some time back. I think it's 4 or 5 years, and it's been quite a journey. It was an incident during an SIV, which I was doing in Bilaspur, and unfortunately, rather than having a reserve throw in a simulation, it turned out to be that a reserve throw had to happen during one of the stalls, which went wrong. Now there are quite a few aspects to what went wrong. There was a decision making that wasn't right. There was a reaction time which wasn't right. There was cascading effect because of a lack of reaction time to the glider, and everything sort of culminated in a line over, which then, of course, luckily I could recognize that it was unrecoverable, and I threw the reserve. Unfortunately, because I hadn't contemplated or taken into account the wind drift, rather than falling into the box where it was supposed to happen, it drifted me to land, and I sort of I smacked down right in the in between power lines, 20-25 meters from power lines. This is the place where the fear actually started.
So I actually happen to have seen this incident of yours, and I can clearly visualize and now what had happened. So technically speaking, Karthik, your incident happened. You had a
Yeah.
stall, you recovered from the stall, but the glider decided to do something really weird, and you had one side wrap around the other. But then you also did the right thing by throwing the reserve, and the reserve brought you down safely to earth, on the ground. But here's the thing: the glider and the reserve, or rather, the reserve did what it's supposed to do. You did what you were supposed to do by throwing it on time. But the whole experience, in spite of
Exactly.
things going as they were supposed to go, caused a sense of fear in you, and it affected your flying for the next 2 years, 3 years,
4 years now.
4 years.
Definitely, it's
That's a
it's now
long
that I
time.
have actually come back and sort of upgraded to where I want to be uh, in the current scenario.
Okay, so now this is a very severe kind of case. Now we'll turn to Vishal. Vishal, this you've heard is a very severe case, and we've been talking about this for a long time, and you've seen Kartik fly. He's come out of it. We'll figure out the process how he came out of it. What is your experience on this? You've been flying for last 4 years now. What has been your experience?
So I basically one of the reasons I wanted to fly was the phobia thing that you said before. So I've always had a height. I've had a fascination as well as a phobia.
Okay.
Always been scared of heights in a sense, not debilitating, but enough to be irritating.
All right, you're in the right spot there.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly, exactly. So, but that's why I got into it. I was like, I
Right.
have to see if
Figure
I
this out,
can
right.
do this, and I have to go beyond it. So that and I mean, my first sort of meeting with paragliding fear was when I was early days. I was trying to do a takeoff, one of my first independent takeoffs at Tower, and the wing overshot me, and because I tried to stop too late into the takeoff process, and the wing overshot me and kind of dragged me down, and I got entangled in a tree, which I'm now famous for. Like that's my trademark now. But at that point in time, it wasn't. So it was it's something that I felt like while I was tumbling down, and it was genuinely like I didn't know what was going to happen or how it was going to be or how it was going to end up. I'm very lucky that I managed to end up safe. It wasn't as great a fall as I thought in my mind. And once I came up, I think it was Vikas Shelar was there, and what he said to me, Vikas Shelar is an instructor at Temple Pilots.
Right.
What he said to me was, "Okay, set up and take off right now. Don't waste time. Don't think about it. Don't let this sit in your head." You know, which for me was it was like, that makes a lot of sense, man. So I did, and then it was a perfect takeoff, and it was perfectly fine. The flight was great. Everything was wonderful, as meant to be. And I realized that this is a huge part of combating, not combating, understanding fear. See, the thing is, the fear is there, but if you can turn it into respect rather than letting it play in your head and becoming something that sits on your head, that's a pretty precious quality that instance taught me.
That's a very good line. I've never heard that before. Turning fear into respect,
Yeah.
especially in our sport.
Yeah.
That's a very good line. That's a very good point also. So, did you actually feel fear, or did you feel that
No, the
it was
second time.
unexpected?
No, it was the fall, of course, was unexpected, and I had no fear before that because I was like, yeah, I got this. I'm going to do this. The second time when I was going immediately, oh man, my heart rate went up, and I was thinking of everything that could possibly go wrong, and like, what if the tree doesn't stop me this time, and so on and so forth.
But it's also your fear that's getting you more alert and getting your senses more alert to what is going on. It's the same fear that is helping you.
That also protects you.
Yes,
Absolutely,
exactly.
which is why it's a very
But-
precious thing.
But that's the right thing. What he's saying is to convert that into respect. So it does not. You should. Fear is good. Phobia is not. Fear is good.
The thing is, you take the fear and then you think about. So there's two ways to keep it in your mind, right? You have that incident that occurred. So either you think of all the things that went wrong, right, and you keep playing on that, or you think of how things will be different this time. That was wrong, I'll fix it and do this. That was wrong, I'll fix it and do this.
Okay.
I'll work towards and this will be the perfect one.
Correct. And that's exactly what happened to me subsequently from after coming out of that incident and coming back to flying in Kamshet on a home site where you know what is going to happen, where you know the terrain, you know everything. But every time I took off, it used to be only that particular incident that used to take over. It's that flight or fight response.
Correct.
It was the flight response that always used to take over.
But
So-
what would you feel? What would you feel? What is it that caused you? What was the feeling that you get? Let's imagine you're at the takeoff now. Would you get those feelings at the takeoff, or would you get the feeling in the flight?
And very importantly, did you ever not fly because of that?
Okay, I'll take it in two parts. One is, of course, at the takeoff, there was never apprehension to take off.
Okay.
Okay, it was always in the flight when I actually took off, and if the glider even sort of pitched or moved a little, your harness would just bump a little. It would it would just scare me hollow, and then I would straight head for the landing. Okay,
So
so
this was your reaction to it. So you
yes,
knew that you have flown here before, you were flying again, but after this incident, a simple flight itself would also cause you to go down and land.
correct. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
then again the logical brain would take up, and
After you landed.
after I landed,
Yeah.
and I would look up and see all you guys flying, and then you would question yourself as why did I land?
Okay. But this logical part would not work while you're
Yes,
flying.
exactly.
Now, question to Vishal:
Mm.
when you had that landing, or when I've seen you in the recent few days that you say, no man, I didn't have a proper landing. I want to go back. I want to fly. I want to have one decent flight, like the one that you've had today. You went to Tikona, came back, had a fantastic landing,
Yeah.
a great day. I can see the change in your mood today,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
you're
yeah.
ecstatic. And last weekend it wasn't that good. You were not, you were okay, but you were still thinking about it. So what I want to know is, Kartik felt it in the air
Mm.
because that incident happened to him in the air. Yours is a landing thing. Do you get worried at landing, or do you get worried right during the flight?
No, I
What's
don't.
going on in your mind?
No, I'm not. So for me, I have a I'm so for me logic overtakes everything. You know what I'm saying? So if I do the steps correctly, like for example, after I had a to clarify, I had an incident last week before last.
Week before last,
2 weeks ago at Tikona, at the same takeoff we were taking off from the old takeoff at Tikona, where I took off without my right leg strap clasped, and uh, intermediate syndrome kicked in, which is a whole other episode which you
Correct.
should do,
Yeah.
which gave me the misled confidence that I could let go and quickly fix this mid-air,
Fix the problem there
fix
and
the
then.
problem then and there, rather than do what I've been taught to do, which is
Right.
fly away from the terrain, get clear first. And what happened, of course, was that when I took my hands off the brakes to fix this, I was too close to the terrain. The glider spun and it dived, and I followed like a pendulum and got dragged and ended up in a tree.
it's
Another
man-
tree.
And my friends
it's
Kartik and
mandatory.
Rohit,
It's mandatory.
my friends Kartik and Rohit I was the tree was also in a bit of a depression. So these two were standing outside the depression and just watching me stand up. And then once I stood up, they said, "Tu theek hai?"
And after
Because
that,
it didn't look like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was a
yeah,
"tu theek hai" thing.
yeah.
So I really lucked out. So obviously it was in my mind. So last week when we were flying on Saturday, I didn't have a great flight,
Right.
and it felt like I needed to, like, you need redemption.
Right.
So on last Sunday, we had a great flight.
Yeah.
And if you see my every track, it's actually labeled redemption track.
Correct.
Redemption
Yeah, I've seen
flight.
that, and we've played that over and over
Yeah,
and over
yeah, yeah,
again
So
for yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Because
Which-
because you need to,
Yeah.
I mean, for whatever it's worth, so you do a few things wrong, but then you also, because you did those things wrong, you know that you won't be doing those things wrong again. So now I'm getting, for example, you guys have this takeoff procedure that Kartik was telling me about, where
it's
you
my
do the,
it's my next episode.
Yeah.
You'll see that. Yeah,
where
I
you
mean,
do
you'll
the
hear that.
checks and
Yeah.
the checks and
Yeah.
remember we discussed it and we were
Yeah.
like, pre-inflation one final check
Check.
is
Yeah.
mandatory,
Yeah.
right? So
Not
so
the
I've
tree.
been, yeah,
mandatory.
yeah. So leave
So-
the tree out.
So, see what I see between the two of you, and I want to, before I compare the two of you, I want to bring in my experience also. For a longest time, I suddenly got spooked about having a stall in the air for
Right.
some no apparent reason. I just started thinking about it, and in fact, what triggered it was, in fact, I was known as the guy who would just take off anywhere. It was probably uh, not right at that time. I was new. It
Foolhardy.
was I was
Being
called
you.
the Maverick, and it was foolhardy when I think about it now. But that time I didn't have any fear, any thought. I knew I loved to be in the air. Any condition, I would just wanted to be in the air. That
Right.
was my thing,
Right.
and I used to feel happy in the air. Rohit started talking to me about, Sajid, do you know that I was known as the guy who could scratch from anywhere and come up.
Mm.
And Rohit told me once I was scratching very, very, very low, very close to the ground, and he said, Sajid, do you know there could be rotors and you could have a problem? I said, I never thought about that, man. He said, no, you see this video. And then that chain started, and I started feeling that, do I not know something? Am I pushing myself in something? And slowly this became a thing about stalls, which created a big problem in my life, in my flying life, where every time my glider would be in some turbulence, I would go and land. Okay. And this is where now I want to compare the three of us. Karthik had a major incident, and in spite of everything going right, his fear stayed with him, and he's not been able to work on it for 3 4 years, where he suffered through it, flown through it, and every time he would feel his glider pitch, he would go and land. I went through the same thing. Every time my glider would rock a little bit in the thermals, although I could thermal very well. If my glider rocked a little bit in thermal, I would go and land. You, on the other hand, are taking an immediate problem and the fear caused by it and sorting it out immediately, maybe in a day's time, maybe in a week's time. You're dealing with it in a very fast way, which is a great thing. But not everybody can do that. Not everybody is logical as you. Some
Correct.
people, I know some people without taking names, who have stopped flying because they had one cascade event or had one asymmetric collapse in which it went into a nosedive. Now, this brings me to two things. One is that Karthik, you and I probably have the same kind of dealing situation where we would escape and land, and after landing, think, what the hell, why did we land? We could have managed that. So, acknowledging that was a problem. We didn't probably acknowledge that we have a problem because
Yes.
peer pressure, you've been flying for so long, especially in my case, I could do this, that, suddenly now my glider is pitching or moving in air which is turbulent air, and I'm landing. That really hurt me. That really hurt my ego. That really hurt my flying capabilities. Similar thing happened to you. I know that because we've been flying together. That and we would ask you, and you would give the excuses. I would give excuses. But here we have Vishal, who is not giving excuses, who's accepting it. Okay, I had a problem. I want to deal with it now.
To be fair, I don't know if I had Kartik's problem, that I would respond in the same way, because that's a whole other level of uh,
True.
you know
We
of
know, we know in the flying community people who have had similar reserve throws and have taken it very differently.
yeah, of
They
course,
take it as a learning and they just continue.
sure.
Okay, so I think it's very individual about how you can handle it. Secondly, as Sajid said, you cannot bring ego into something like this.
No,
True.
but
So
no,
if
but it's okay to talk. I mean, we acknowledge it now, but at that point of time,
but this is also a learning that we
that is the learning that we
yes,
want to impart to people who are going
exactly,
through fear. Accept,
exactly.
acknowledge it that
Yes,
you have a problem.
yes. So uh, one thing is you have, now there are stages. One thing is you have to accept that yes, there is a problem, and you do realize that yes, you go land every time, you're giving excuses, and you just need to be in the air. Secondly is every flight, and luckily for me, I had you, I had Rohit, I had Avi also, I
Hmm.
had TJ, everyone was there, and they said, all of you all said the same thing, that okay, if it's a top to bottom, let be a top to bottom, but continue with it. The second stage would be take a flight and say, I will not land till I have three collapses.
Correct.
So, in a flight, if you've not even had a collapse, and you can still continue flying. So, when is the three collapse? And
Exactly. So what happens in fear, which is what I also went, my experience, the way I got out of it is that I myself couldn't accept it. I said, this is nonsense. This is not who I am. I'm going to deal with it. Enough is enough. And I went and did an SIV and collapsed the wing and XYZ. Been some time, came back very confident. Now that I knew what collapsing, what stall was and full stall was, and I was able to handle it. I also overcame it by going to Olodanis and for 3 days continuously stalling my glider, 3 flights a day, uh, that to an acro glider, and I overcame that. But here I want to ask you, you're a good pilot, but because of fear, you are probably flying at 5 to 10% of your capacity. You agree on that,
Perfect. Yeah, totally.
right?
Totally.
In that 5 to 10% capacity, although you know that you have a buffer of about 85% to 80% more of flying skill within you, but you don't take that because the fear is eating that, right? Now, the stage that you said, we need to overcome that. So the first thing is acknowledging it, so that, okay, I have a problem, guys, and you need your community to support you.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
If
That
somebody
is.
who is making fun of you, or saying what's nonsense, what's this, doesn't acknowledge it, don't fly with that person, because it'll just take you back further.
And that is one thing that's amazing about this is, uh, in our whole flying community, I never had anyone, especially Sajid, Rohit, because we've been flying together for so long, that they never said anything derogatory or made fun of me even in that phase. It was always just come
Positive
and fly. It
encouragement.
was
Yeah.
always positive
Yeah.
encouragement. So the acknowledgement came because of that positive encouragement. Secondly is, how will you deal with it? So i
Exactly.
i i went into, let's say I had a, again, like I come back to Rohit's podcast of a pod harness or a open
Correct.
harness.
Correct.
Did I change to a pod harness too fast? In
Hmm.
hindsight, I would say yes,
Okay.
definitely, possibly. Okay. Did I change my wing too fast? Possibly, yes, that could be a problem. I wasn't ready for the what could have happened. So in hindsight, these are all the things that we can talk about.
So this is your recovery process where you thought, okay, I am getting spooked, let me go back a step.
Yes. So let's go back to being a student again. So I gave up the a mid B wing. I went in for a ENA. I gave up a pod harness. Went in for an open harness, and started from scratch, a clean slate.
Okay, so your way of recovery was, I have acknowledged it. It took some time for you to acknowledge it. Finally, you acknowledged it, and you decided, okay, I am not happy with my current wing. I'm not happy with the dynamics of this wing. I want to take a step back and slowly build it back.
Or
Right?
even
True.
if you're
True.
happy, you just decided that I'm gonna, what we were talking about, Sajid, you and I, about about there being a fine line between like risk taking to learn and risk taking for the sake of
Sake
risk
of risk.
taking. So you kind of back off, fly conservatively, so that you recoup all of that stuff that you
You
had before
So
you.
that
you
so
can
that
build on your
Correct.
foundation all over again.
Correct.
so that
Exactly.
that 80% which was locked and not coming out, you're slowly unlocking that
Unlocking.
80%, which
Exactly.
is your potential. You're not a bad pilot, you're a good because you've been flying, but he's not been doing that because he was in fear, so now he's slowly unlocking that.
So one part of it was coming back to square one in terms of the equipment, and realizing that yes, okay, let's go back to ENA. Let's go back to the right to the very basics. No instruments, no not many things you're
Okay.
looking at.
Okay.
Just concentrate on your flying and get that in order.
And I think the
Se-
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Second one was SIV,
Hmm.
and this
Very
is
important.
this is where, when I went to Olu Denny's, and this is where all these things happened in a stall. And Olu Denny's was the place which changed everything. Because in one flight you could do 4, 5, 7 stalls, and then you realize that, okay, if I can do it here, I can do it all the other places. It's not that bad, you know.
I I understand that. I also wouldn't. What I feel about your wing was, even we didn't understand why your wing behaved, the previous wing from where you changed to an ENA without taking the name of that wing, because we were also watching you, and we still can't understand how that thing reacted the way it reacted, because it collapsed in the front, not behind. Okay, and wrapped around on flying side, the one side. So it's clearly, what you went through was that you had no explanation as to why the wing did what it did. So that got into you saying that it could do again, it could do something which I'm not sure of.
No, it was more. Now that's when we talk about technology. It could have been the factors. I started my maneuver too early, so I'd not assessed what was happening. That was the first mistake. uh, Choosing a wing of that caliber, where and I didn't have the caliber to handle it, would have been the second mistake. So it might not have been the wing at all. It was my inputs that led to the cascade.
I mean, not to be, this is not part of this, but you yourself, just now you said there was strong wind that caused you to drift towards land. So obviously so when the wing is collapsed, right, when you're doing a stall in strong wind, it's totally possible that you can get a wrap. It's totally
Uh,
possible.
but yeah,
Logically
you
speaking.
can. But what happened was he recovered it. His wing
Ah,
recovered.
I
It
was
was
on a
flying.
backfly.
It was
okay.
backfly. He recovered. The wing dove. It was on his head, and then it it went ahead and folded in the front.
That's
And one
weird.
side, the left hand side edge tip wrapped around the lines of the
Right.
right hand side. That is
You can't
something
recover from that. No
which we
chance.
couldn't understand why that happened. So yeah, so maybe you took it to a point where you said, okay, maybe I'm not ready for this wing, let me step back. So you recovered from there. The other thing that really worked for me and for you, Vishal, maybe you'll also appreciate this once you uh, hear about it, is that every time we felt that fear, that every time I took off, and I had a ENA and a ENB, I had an epsilon, which is a really passive safety, high passive safety, and a really nice wing. I would feel that okay, I need to go and land. The way I recovered from it initially was okay, 5 minutes more. Let me take this bump,
Mm.
bear it for 5 minutes, because literal nausea used to happen.
Sure.
Okay, so I had to beat that feeling down. And when those 5 minutes were over, I used to think, I just went through it for 5 minutes. Why am I going to land? Let
Mm.
me try 5 more minutes. But you would reach a certain limit at one point and say, okay, enough for today. I have reached my limit.
Sure.
So I did that slowly and slowly. And this was encouragement from Rohit, from Kartik, from everybody. Because what had happened is Rohit also went through a stage of fear
Right.
when he had to throw
Deployed
his
as well.
reserve
Yeah.
here in Tikona. And he also, his way of recovering was reading
Mm.
and going through that
The
one by one
technicalities of it.
technicalities. For me, it was more of a feeling. For him,
Sure.
was more of a feeling. Of course, for Rohit also. But this is how the three of us we sort of came out of it to a point that Karthik today has inaugurated his Rook 3 wing,
Yeah.
high
So
end B.
correct. So
Well done,
it's
first of all.
thanks.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, thank you. So it's a journey over 4 years. So I went to ENA, and then I went to I changed the harness to a seated. That also, after that I changed to low B to see how I handle the low B, and the low B has been with me for the last 3 years. I went to a reversible harness and a proper super acro harness.
So you went through a lot of changes for yourself, right?
Yes,
That's how you
yes.
handle your fear. I handled my fear in a different way. I got tired of it myself, and I said, "This is not who I am. I can't let
Exactly.
this beat me. I need to figure this out." That's how I went. Vishal has gone and done exactly the same thing. This is not happening. I am not going to accept this. So the approach that I see over here between the three of us is you decided to step back and relook at it from a far angle,
A
start from scratch.
third person perspective, and
I decided to enough of this. I want to take this head on. He's decided to, you know, also take it like no, I want to do it now. I can handle this. Why did it happen? Okay, I have to. So more on procedure basis.
Analyze. So
Analyze.
for my view is, first you accept that you're scared.
Correct. That's very important.
That's
That's what we
key.
discuss. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you learn to acknowledge the signs of that fear. So you get the heart rate and you get the breathing, and then you can physically you can calm yourself down. You can make sure that because of the fear you're not screwing up. You know what I'm saying?
That's very important. Say that
Yeah.
again. Sorry,
See,
what would you do?
fear can either make you screw up things
Yeah.
because you're not focused and you're
Fight or
not
flight. So
clear.
you flight.
Correct.
I don't want to be here.
Right.
Now you want to
Or
fight.
the other way is, fear can also make you completely super focused.
Ah.
You can check everything 52 times as a way of
Hmm.
combating that fear. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even today when I was taking off, I must have checked, like as we discussed, I must have checked my connections, everything several times over and over again, and one more time again before taking off.
Taking off.
You know what I'm saying?
So this is the change you have had from that
Last
incident
2 weeks
onward.
ago.
So
Yeah.
you've learned from that.
Yes.
Okay.
I learned from that. So, of course, acknowledging that, yes, I was scared before taking off, no question. But does that mean I'm going to let it? See, my problem in life is always that I don't like to live in fear.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? That's a
It's-
perpetual thing for me.
That's a
So,
personality thing also.
yeah.
Yeah. So we could also, so that's the point I was going to come at, that the examples that I gave for three of us, it's also a personality based thing.
Sure.
So how you deal with fear is also based on your personality. We need to introspect a little bit before. So we are not giving a solution for anybody, but we are just showing examples of how we dealt with fear.
Correct.
So in summary, I would say that to deal with fear, first one is to acknowledge that you're scared.
Yeah.
That's very
Definitely.
important.
Absolutely.
You can
Absolutely.
You can't fool yourself.
you can fool yourself initially.
You
Say
can. It's
that,
very easy
yeah,
to fool
very
yourself,
easy to fool
actually.
yourself. You can fool yourself. Say that, okay,
But at some point,
this and
it's
that.
going to come back to
You
harm
can,
you.
Inside,
you can
in
blame the wind, you can blame
Yeah,
the wing,
yeah.
you can blame
Okay,
whatever. You can
okay.
but
totally
inside,
fool
you
yourself.
know.
Yeah.
Yes. You know
Second,
the truth.
second is after you acknowledge this within yourself, I would really strongly recommend talk to people. Talk to your close friends. If you don't have close friends who are flyers, talk to pilots who've been around. Talk to people like us. Talk to instructors. Get their view and also fly with these
Yeah.
people.
And I think that is where we discount the community at this point, because the flying community and your friends and everyone plays such an important part in this journey that it needs to be taken cognizance of.
Totally.
It
Absolutely.
cannot be ignored.
Correct.
Yeah, you
Definitely.
know, in this sport, literally, it's true. No man is an island. At the end of the day, see, the thing is, when you screw up, it's if in any other field, as I've seen, if you mess up badly, you're embarrassed to tell your peers.
Correct.
But here, people not only tell their peers, they discuss it to the bare bones. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
there's that when I had this incident, I had 3 debriefs literally after that. Like Rohit and I spoke that night, you and I spoke, you and I spoke, right? Extensively. It wasn't, and I realized one thing, that my perspective of the incident was clarified by those debriefs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which is really crucial, because you even in the course of an incident, you tend to not see everything. You still see it, but you may not register it
Yeah.
all.
And that's exactly, I mean, when in the initial days after my incident, even when we spoke about it,
Yeah.
he had a certain perspective that I always took into, that Sajid. Rohit had a perspective. I spoke to Gurpreet about it. I
Right.
spoke to Avi about it. And but at the end of it, the crux of the whole discussion was, do not stop flying. Even if you do a top to bottom,
Right.
keep doing it, because the number of flights you keep doing, you will end up building that muscle memory. You will start getting that confidence.
Sure. Sure.
If you break,
Correct. So now the third point in that summary is you need to identify your personality type.
yes,
Would you want to how would you want to handle it? Do you want to go back?
Mm.
Do you want to be where you are and read about it, explain, get that explanation and do it, or try till you succeed? It could be anything.
Yeah.
I'm just These are not just not the three things. It could be more. We're just giving
Oh,
examples.
it can be all of
No,
them.
Can
as
be
well.
all of
well,
them. Can be anything.
exactly.
But it's also important. First, acknowledge. Talk to your friends and fly with them and to get over it. Third is identify what your personality type is and what will work for you. And I think the fourth, which I think all of us will agree on this, there is no other way than to fly more. Whatever happens, you cannot say that, okay, now I've got this, I will sort it out, I'm done. No, you got to keep on flying. Like for example, today I flew Akila after such a long time, and I've been telling you since the time I came over here
Yeah.
in the afternoon that
I'm worried. I'm worried.
I'm worried. I'm like, I don't know why I'm worried, but it's just an apprehension or maybe a little bit of
Anxiety.
which is good to keep you on your toes. I don't want to do anything stupid in my mind. On my way to this flying site, which is 2.5 hours, I have played every maneuver.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And then while I'm replaying those maneuvers in my mind, I'm also thinking what could go wrong, and that is setting a little bit of apprehension in my mind, which is good, because today when I tried doing helico, it because of the gust, it didn't stay in for a long time. But I tried. What's important for me today is that I tried. That was important for me. Had I not tried, I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight.
Mm.
So now again today I said, my daughter called me and I told her that this is what happened. I'm not. I told Avi about it. Avi's view was that maybe you didn't hold it right, but I know that it was probably because of that. But I tried. That's important for me. So these are the four things that
exactly. And similarly, also, me opening a new wing today was uh, that's what we've been talking about, is that every flight has to have certain tasks. So the new wing, what are you, if you're opening a new wing, what are you going to do with the new wing in
Today,
that today?
just to get to know your wing.
Get to
Yeah,
know the wing, so use every flight to its fullest, rather than just
Being a tourist
yeah,
and
being a tourist and letting the glider fly, rather than you knowing that, okay, this is what I want to do. Get something out of the flight.
correct. And I just want to thank Vishal here for one thing, but he's done it twice. Is we've been telling him, because he's a new pilot, but he has noticed me kite a wing without the harness, of course, just the wing without a helmet. And he's told me twice, once today and once last week. Now this is the community, right? He doesn't shy away from pointing it
Exactly.
out. I feel extremely happy and proud and ecstatic that there's somebody who's telling me that I did not think of. Just because I've been flying for more years does not make me less stupid.
Exactly.
I'm stupid. I have been corrected, and I really appreciate that. Now
the,
this is the community
so
that
in my mind, there's a very loud sound of my head making three impacts while I was getting dragged 2 weeks ago,
that's also
which had the helmet on, and I'm thinking during that process that if I didn't have this helmet on, this would be a whole other kind of incident.
yeah.
Exactly.
So
But we
I'm
we
I'm never going to do anything
and
without a
we
helmet
never
on.
ever we actually when I think about it, whenever we've kited a wing, just the wing,
We've never worn a
we've never
helmet.
worn a helmet because we can always leave the
Let
wing.
go, yeah.
Yeah. But what if your hand gets
Caught.
entangled in a line? But that's I think I've learned that. So thank you very much, Vishal. And Kartik, thank you for sharing. I know this has not been easy for you. It's been I know your emotions were running very high when that happened, and the first thing
You've seen it.
you've come to me, and
Yes.
yeah, I really it took a very strong effort from you to get over that, and I'm seeing you fly beautifully, and I think we all compliment each other. Any last words before we go?
I think from my end, I think this is one of the most beautiful sports. Uh, for anyone to just give it up because of one incident,
True.
and secondly, the kind of friends that you make within this sport, I think it goes beyond just the sport. It goes also onto personal
Correct.
You
relationships.
end up with no other friends. You end up with only because nobody else understands you.
The
That's
gla-
the real fear.
the
The real fear is
and
that
and
you
you
only
keep
end up with pilots.
and no one understands why you keep watching videos of flying.
Yeah, especially your family. They don't understand what's going on with
Yeah,
you,
it's
man.
like, dude, there is a problem here. You realize that? Right? Like, it's the opposite of a problem.
It's a condition.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
condition.
condition. Okay. On that note, that it's a condition that we all suffering, which is called paragliding. I'm going to end over here, and like Vishal said, we should do one episode on the intermediate syndrome soon.
Yes,
We'll all
we
talk
really
about
should.
this. Yeah. And so, thank you very much, listeners, for being here and listening to us. This has been slightly extended topic, but this needs that much time. So we hope that people who are suffering from fear and having a problem in their flying characteristics should really take help from others, acknowledge it, speak to people, fly with people who are positive, look at your own self on how you want to handle this, and be at it. You will get over it like how we all have done. So thank you very much. Thank you, Vishal. Thank
Thank
you,
you, man.
Karthik.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having me.
Al.